Hey, good morning, everybody. I think I'm just a little bit late. I said I would be on at 11. That's a minute or two late. And I had wanted to take a little bit of time. It's been an interesting week. I think many of us have found it, on one hand, inspiring, where we maybe have gone, I'm a little bit nervous about stuff, but we've seen the presidential inauguration on Wednesday. And we have also seen a lot of executive action, executive orders that have come out. And I think most of you know that Jan and I have been doing a ministry focused on African immigration. We live in North Dakota where there's a surge of African immigration. And a lot of stuff that has a political framework, that has a national policy framework, really affects our ministry. It also, we've lived overseas so long that this is just how we're wired. This is our network. We care about people who are diaspora, people who are shifting around the world. So I wanted to come on and give some quick feedback on some of the stuff that's happened. And really, I want to say is I'm starting a conversation here. Honestly, where I'm at, I don't feel like I have this fully thought through as well as I would like before I start talking in public. I'm not even at my best.
Says video has no sound.
My wife just told me my video has no sound. Jana, are you Jana?
Yeah. Let me look and see on
Let me.
the computer.
Oh, I see three people watching me.
Okay.
I'm wondering if can somebody talk to me? Do you hear me? Does anyone hear me? Before I don't want to go off if nobody's here. All right, let me wait for my wife to get started. I do not like what's just happening right now. I've got a fourth person who's come on, and then nobody's dropping off, but nobody's telling me whether they can hear me. Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? I've got 5 people watching me. My gut is people are hearing me. I think people would go off if they're not. So let me try to catch my thought again. Just had this executive orders that have come out. I think they've got signed on Wednesday. We're all sorting through them. Sandrine Mugisha is watching me. Can you hear me? I got 9 people watching me. You guys must be hearing me. All right. We've just had these executive orders come out. I can hear you. Yes, thanks. We're on. All right, let's get rolling. Okay. First off, this isn't the very, very best that I can do. I had COVID a couple of months ago, and I think I'm not one of the guys who's going to be a long-termer, but a lot of times in the afternoon I get a headache. A couple of days ago, I got a vaccine for shingles, and that hurt me. And then I was in the weight room with my son Timothy, and I somehow ran my head pretty hard into a bar, moving around as we were doing pull-ups. So my ears have been ringing for a couple of days, and I've had to lay down. I'm not fully there right now. I have read through Christianity Today's article on immigration. I've read through statements that the Immigration Coalition, Evangelical Immigration Coalition, has made. This morning I read through the legal details of President Biden's. This is what he actually wrote. This is the official things, and it's got a lot of legalese in it. It takes me a little bit to catch on to it. So I'm just going to kind of give you a quick, this is the start of a conversation, and I hope you'll jump into it. Broad sweep, I think immigration is good for America. Our birth rates have been declining. If the economy has a certain measure of just minimal growth, we generally don't even have enough people able to go to work in the United States to get all the work done because our birth rates have been so low without having immigrants. Also, our university systems were built, designed around a population that was going to go back to the baby boom and the population of college age decline. Our universities don't function well without immigration to take up some spots. Then I'm going to say this as a person who's a believer in Jesus, believer in the local church. One of the surges where we're seeing church growth happen in the United States is immigrant churches. And some people have done the research that says that 70% of those who immigrate to the United States come from either a strong Christian heritage or shortly after coming here, they will become Christians and become active parts of a local church. Something about this immigration experience boosts the Christian witness in the United States. So I think it's good for our education, it's good for our economy, it's good for our churches to have immigrants coming into the United States. However, my perspective was not shared by the former president, and we had a number of executive actions that really knocked down the numbers of immigrants entering into the United States. And I don't think that was good for our economy, for our education systems, or for the growth of Christianity in the United States. As President Biden has come in, he has very quickly basically taken the executive actions and the administrative policies of the Trump administration and flipped it almost exact. And I imagine right now, if you're a government bureaucrat, this is a lot to catch up with, try to figure out what you're supposed to do. And you were being faithful in one sense just a few weeks ago, and now you got to shift completely different. And let me say, little Bible, you probably feel a lot like how Daniel felt when Babylon fell and Persia took over. New empire, new emperor. What do you do? Well, please just be faithful. But I wanted to kind of give some quick thoughts for three groups that are going to be watching me. And I'm going to say this, one of the unique places about my Facebook is it has a lot of diversity, and sometimes people will hop into conversations and you don't realize who's hopping in. I'm betting there's going to be three groups of people watching me right now. One is going to be people who are citizens of the United States, and if you listen to me and you like me, you probably stay politically aware. You probably on occasion send a letter to your legislatures and you vote. You want to know what's going on, you'll say, okay, I'm going to put down, I'm going to vote. This is to U.S. citizens who write and vote. A second is to those who are not citizens, but they are in the process of immigrating here or they're already here, and they're trying to make sense of this. A third is somewhat unique. I am assuming I'm going to pick up some middle-class parents who are not citizens of the United States. They're probably friends of mine in Africa, in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and they know me well enough to know, hey, I'd like for my son or daughter to come to the U.S. to study. What do you think about it? And they know I've helped kids get to the U.S. to study in the past. So three groups here, three bits of counsel. I'll start with the one that is probably the most controversial. Sorry, parents, you're going to have to wait. What do you do as a voting engaged U.S. citizen? Now, I've made the argument immigration is good. I hope you'll buy that. If you don't, go do some research or go sit with some immigrant pastors. I think you're going to go, oh, yeah, this really is a pretty good thing that's happening. But if you're like most Americans, you're frustrated with it. In fact, almost all of the research is saying that the vast majority of Americans are unhappy with our immigration system. And something that's unique is we actually have consensus. There's a lot of polarization in many areas. Immigration is an area where there's still largely consensus. And the consensus largely says, fix the system. And I'm kind of going to give you this is where I think most people are at. Almost everybody in this country, in the United States, knows some immigrant that you're friends with that you've seen this system do them wrong, and it irritates you, and you wish it would do it right. A portion of us know some immigrant that has done the system wrong, and we wish there was a little bit more rigidity in it. Then you kind of get the spectrum of some who might say, well, I wish there was a little bit more security, and some who would say, I wish there was a little bit more openness. But there's a consensus that says let's get some more security and let's open it up and have more consistency, and that's where the majority of us are at right now. Well, the proposal that I've seen the Biden administration put forward is basically a proposal that has not said much about security, but it's basically said we've got to get the system so people can immigrate right, and it's going to become a legislative thing. Now, some have said that what went wrong a few years ago with the Gang of Eight, where there was a very comprehensive policy that dealt with both security and opening the doors in an orderly way, was it was too complicated. You just couldn't get consensus once. You had to start pushing it through and give a simpler one and then negotiate. That might be true. What I want to encourage you to do, if you're somebody like me who writes and who votes, is within the next week or two, make a phone call to your legislator, write them a letter, and I'm going to try to get a blog up to kind of say a model of this, and say if we would really like for our legislators, our senators and our representatives, when this thing comes, get in there and get something passed through. And I'll add to this, I will have a little bit of concern about two matters as policy frameworks for community. One, generally, in almost all neighborhoods that I've lived in or I have a friend in, If a bunch of immigrants come into your neighborhood, well, the soccer's going to get better, the track is going to get better for sure. That's going to happen within a few weeks of the kids going to school. The marriage rates are going to go up, and you're going to have birth rates are going to go up. You got a few more kids, and you got a few more moms and dads immediately. Within a couple of weeks to months, a lot of hard to fill jobs are filled up. Employment in difficult places is going to rise. But what's going to happen for a lot of us is you're going to have a little bit more people living at poverty level because they're coming in starting, and it's going to tax your local social services a bit. That's the honest truth. I think if you give it 10 years, all of a sudden those families are middle class, but it's going to put some strain on your locality. Most neighborhoods, when mom and dad and a couple of kids move in and dad goes to work and mom works a little bit too, and if the kids misbehave, they get disciplined at home, those families move into anyone's neighborhood, crime rates go down. Immigrant families, they generally go down. But a few of you have written, and it's true, there's a few neighborhoods where immigrants have moved in and crime rates have gone up. I'm not going to deny that hasn't happened. That's an anomaly. There's something unique in your neighborhood that made that happen. But you've probably got some points to push back at Washington and say, let's make sure we get the policy right. So say in this group number one, you're an American citizen, you vote, you write letters. I'm going to ask in the next few weeks you start writing letters and calling and push your legislators, get something through and find something that works. We've got consensus about it. I'm willing to give a little bit in a lot of areas, get our folks moving. Okay, the second group that I'm going to be talking to is those who have immigrated to the United States, but your documents aren't fully through, or maybe you've already got here, but you're trying to get your family here that are family reunification visas that have not been pushed through. Or maybe it's someone who is just on the edge of coming in. You've been sitting maybe as outside applying for asylum or refugee status, and you're waiting and you're going, okay, what's this mean? Right now the door is open, and the door is probably going to stay open for about 4 years. As much as can be done by executive action has been done, and I'm going to say this in a hurry. Get your documents moving. Don't delay. Get it moving, and stay in touch with your network who's in the United States so we can help you out. Third group, and this is going to sound contradictory. Some people are going to find what I'm going to say is offensive in this one, but 8 years ago, when we were living in Rwanda, I was given a role of helping Rwandan students come to the United States to go to university. In the course of my 7 years in Rwanda, I helped over 300 kids come to the United States and go to school. I want to say this real clear. I don't have any of that authority anymore. I don't have any of that responsibility. But I still get calls and letters saying, Dave, what do you think about my son or daughter who's done fairly well in high school in Uganda or Rwanda, or can you come into the U.S. and go into school? And do you have any ideas where he should apply? And a couple of months ago, I said, I honestly would encourage you, do not encourage your kids to come to the U.S. I was looking at COVID. I was looking at the political climate. I was looking at healthcare. And I thought, you know what? I would not encourage any family I care about to put their kid on a plane coming into the United States from last summer until about the last couple of weeks ago. I know if you're an American citizen, you're listening right now thinking, whoa, Dave, that's pretty harsh. I'm going to say, I just wouldn't put a kid through this. The political climate was too tense. The social structure was too tense. I just didn't feel good about it. I would have said, this is the Dave Jenkins travel warning. Now, today, I'm backing off on that just a little bit. I think we might be seeing a change of tone. We might be seeing a better system dealing with COVID. And my counsel right now, if you're one of those parents in Kigali or Kampala or Nairobi who sends me a note, I'd say, let's watch this one until April 1st, and I'm going to tell you what I think on April 1st. I would say, just keep your kid going to school, put books in front of him, feed him, laugh with him, enjoy life. And around April 1st, let's have a conversation. Let's see what things look like in the United States. I think we're about 3 months away from seeing it well. And I'm going to ask, if you're one of those families, you're my dear friends, you're part of the reason I'm here, keep praying for Jana and I. We see ourselves as missionaries here in the United States, and we really need a lot of godly wisdom And even as I've done this, this is basically me hopping in and saying, this is a conversation that we're starting. I'm going to be blogging some more. I'm going to do some more detailed stuff. I'm going to be posting stuff up here and asking for you to come in. But it's basically, let's start the conversation that President Biden's executive orders and proposals are going to start about immigration. If you're an American citizen, write and vote. If you're an immigrant, get in a hurry, get your documents. If you're sitting there waiting and watching, I'd say wait and watch just a couple more months before you push your kids this direction. God's blessings on you. Thank you. I feel so honored to see the number of you that have joined me for this. You guys are great folks. I feel very honored that you've given me your time. Bye-bye.